Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I am so excited to be here this afternoon. For those of you who are first-time visitors, I want to let you know a little bit about who we are, and I will do that by sharing our values. Here's our welcome. So at the Center for Spiritual Living, let me take this out of here. We have certain things that we value, and I think you can tell a lot about an organization or a person, an individual, by what is important to them. And so what is important to us and what is at the top of our list is this idea of spiritual growth and practice. In this month, we're talking about mindfulness, which is one of the practices that we use to enhance our spiritual lives and to grow spiritually. So all this month is all about mindfulness, and all of our guests will be speaking about that in some aspect or another. We appreciate love here. We are all about appreciation and gratitude. We value our spiritual community. We value the community that we live in. We value freedom of expression and freedom to be and freedom to grow and to show up as we are. We value creativity. We value health and wholeness. We also value generosity and financial well-being. And let's see, I want to tell you about our mission. Our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living is to provide spiritual tools and practices for personal and global transformation. Now, we've taken that mission from the larger mission of Centers for Spiritual Living. And for those of you who are not familiar, we are not a singular entity. We're part of a much larger organization. There are Centers for Spiritual Living all over the United States and Canada and the rest of the world. And our purpose at Centers for Spiritual Living is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Our vision is a world that works for all, and that is what we are here to manifest. And so just kind of get us oriented for our afternoon together, and I'm going to start that out with a little prayer. So if you would just take a moment and take a nice deep breath and center yourselves and just release everything that has come before this moment and any concerns or thoughts about what's to come after, and just be here right now with your breath and be in this moment and just relax into it and know that everything that you need is already here and is already provided. And so I just know and affirm that there is one power and one presence that runs in, around, and through all things. I am a part of that presence, as is each and every one of us here. It is all powerful. It is all knowing. It is the source of wisdom. It is the source of everything that is, the source of creativity. It is love itself. It is compassion. It is wisdom. It is joy. It is peace. It is everything. And I am part of that. And as part of that presence, I can speak my word and my truth into that field of infinite potential, of infinite possibility, and claim it for each one of us right here and now. From that place, from that infinite source, I just know and affirm that everything that needs to be said is said, that everything that needs to be heard is heard. I affirm that minds are open and hearts are open, and in that moment of openness, we see the wholeness, we see the oneness that lies beneath everything else. And I just affirm that there is healing, that there is the acknowledgement and the feeling of that oneness, and that hearts and minds are healed because of our time together. So I'm so very, very grateful for our guest, for all of the circumstances that brought us to this moment and this time together. And know that we each leave this gathering of hearts and minds better for having come together. I know that we each leave here today changed, that we each grow, that we know a little bit more about ourselves and one another, because of the time we spent together. So I release these words into the law. I release these words into that field of infinite potential. And I know that it is already done and that it is all good. And I say, and so it is. Deep breath. It felt good to get centered there. I am super, super excited to be joining you and to have you with me this afternoon. Those of you who know me know that I have volunteered at Marion Correctional Institution, which is a prison for men here where I live in Marion County, for the past 5 years. That experience began through the Gavel Club, which is a Toastmaster group that happens behind prison walls. And in that place, I've met quite a few interesting, amazing, so many people, so many amazing people, and so many stories that I've heard during that time. But the story of the person that you're going to meet today is really near and dear to my heart. Richard Midkiff is one of the special people. I told him already, I said, I don't want to be boo-hooing through this whole thing today, and I'm already starting. Richard spent 23 years in prison for a crime that he's going to tell you about. I don't want to take too much of his story away. I'm letting him tell you that. But Richard spent that time looking at himself, improving himself, learning, growing, and giving back and teaching. And Richard helped put together a program along with our dear friend Manal Fakori called the SAGE program. And I was asked to teach classes for the SAGE program, and that's where Richard and I met. And they're personal growth classes. They're classes about trauma and social emotional learning and restorative practices. And Richard was the go-to person at the prison. And Richard, gosh, he's a really just great example of someone who has picked themselves up from the depths of despair and difficulty and really turned his life around. And I'm just so fascinated by what it took for Richard to keep his head straight, even when things looked like they weren't going his way, and to be able to stay mindful, which is the theme for us this month. And I want him to share his experience with you. And I just know that you're going to learn a lot from our time with Richard today. So let me bring him into the stream here. And welcome, Richard.
Hi, thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, this meeting has been like years in the making.
Oh my God, so many years in the making. I can remember talking about the things that we were going to do when I get out. And to be out here now and doing those things and living that life is just an amazing opportunity. And it's also a testament of what you can do if you truly put your mind to something.
Yes, absolutely. So Richard, why don't you tell us how and why you ended up spending 23 years in prison? And that wasn't your whole sentence. Your sentence was actually 38 years. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So it really comes down to choices. I could cop out right here and say, you know what? I had a really bad day. I hung out in the wrong crowds, and somebody else's actions resulted in my being charged with the first-degree murder and armed robbery case. But that wouldn't be accurate, and it wouldn't be honorable, because we make choices that compound. When you make a choice to do something wrong and you think it's something minor, you sweep it under the rug, and you keep making these choices that just compound into something larger, larger, larger. That's what I was doing with my life. I made a choice at an early age to quit school. I made a choice at an early age to use and sell drugs. I made a choice at an early age to be irresponsible. And all of those choices compounded to an ultimate choice on January 24th, 1996, when I drove my co-defendant to a known drug dealer's house in an attempt to rob the drug dealer of his drugs. My co-defendant and the drug dealer got in a fight. The gun discharged, and it resulted in the drug dealer dying. Now, I know that bullet could have went either way, But at that point in my life, I'd made a choice of something that I couldn't back out of. And it was on that day that my life changed forever.
So
And
Richard, you talk about the choices you made. How old were you when you were making those decisions? Like when you dropped out of school, when you started using?
so, about 13 or 14 years old, I wasn't living at home. And, when you're not living at home as a kid and you're thinking about, man, how am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to do to survive today? So you do things just to get by. And one of the misconceptions I think people have about juveniles, and especially juveniles who end up in the juvenile detention centers and the prisons and the jails, is a lot of these, all kids are looking for positive affirmation. And when you don't find that at home, you're going to find it somewhere. So for a lot of kids that get caught up, the first time they were ever told that they were good at something is when they committed a crime. And they felt good. They felt like, wow, somebody values me. And if you study, Tony Robbins, Creating Lasting Change, he talks about your basic human needs, and one of those is significance. We all want to feel significant in life,
Right.
and that's what I wanted to feel. I want to feel significant, and I found it in negative ways, in negative platforms. So I started making bad choices when I was about 13, and all of those compounded by the age of 19, and my life was completely out of control to the point where I didn't really care if I lived or I died.
So what was, I think there may be people sitting there trying to wrap their mind around, like, what could be happening to a kid at 13, 14 years old that, being out and doing drugs or whatever, like that was your best option, or
Well,
that was, a viable option at the time.
right. For me, I hate to use the word victim, but I was a victim of child abuse at an early age. My father passed away when I was 4 years old. My stepfather, he had a tragic accident where he was where a gun discharged and it shot him in the head, and he survived, but he wasn't the same person. And not to make excuses for him, because it's never okay to abuse a child, but he wasn't the same person. And when I was in fourth or fifth grade, and as I shared with you before, that time I've kind of blocked a lot of things out in my mind. He beat me really bad one time where they had to take me out on a stretcher. And that had such a significant impact on my life, because now I wasn't interested in a male role model in my life. I wasn't interested in the family structure as it was. I felt like I had to defend and protect myself at that age. And, coming from a home where alcohol is prevalent in my home, I have siblings that drugs are prevalent in the home. You fall into these habits, and that's what happened to me. And I look at the young people in my family today who don't do any of that, and they're straight A students, and they say, Uncle Richard, we look up to you. Like, no, I look up to you guys, because I wish I'd have been doing that when I was your age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're doing drugs, you're 13, 14 till you're 19 years old, and then this thing happens. This thing happens, and you end up in prison with a sentence of 38 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the day I was arrested was probably the first day that I'd been sober in 7 years of my life. And I realized at that point that something has to change. I don't know what, and I don't know how, but something was going to change. So I made a promise to myself right then. And that was March 12th, 1996. And I went in there, I went to the county jail. I had no education. I had no resources. I had nothing but a desire to be a better me. Because I knew that I wanted to be somebody of value. I wanted to be somebody good. I started, picking up books, started teaching myself how to do fractions, how to do decimals, all of these little things I should have learned in school that I didn't know. And I spent
So
all of my
wait a second. At this point, you dropped out of school at what age?
in eighth grade, so 14, 15 years old.
Okay, so you go to prison. You don't even have a high school diploma when you get to prison,
No,
and like nothing.
I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't have anything.
And were
And
there programs? Were there were there teachers that were helping you out there, or did you pretty much self-taught?
so I was able to secure my GED in 2003 or 2004 when I was at Avon Park Correctional Institution. So I went through there and I got my GED, but there was no other programs available to people with a long sentence like myself. And moving, if I jump forward real quick, that was a lot of the motivation for something like Sage, because when you're in prison, they only really have resources for people that have 3 years left on their sentence. Those are the only people going to vocation. Those are the only people getting education. Those are the only resources that are allocated to them. And prison's logic on that is technology changes. So if you had 10, 20, 30 years, we're not going to put you through a vocation that you can't apply to your life, and the technology is going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. My argument to them was, well, I want to learn. And not only do I want to learn, but if I go through this program, then I could be a facilitator and help other people. But they just were not hearing any of that. So the majority of everything that I learned has been self-taught. For me, I got a passion for investing in stocks, and I started studying that in 2002, 2003, and stuck with it for several years and was able to secure some money to where I was investing in stocks. And that's how I provided for myself while I was in prison.
And not just yourself, right? I mean, you learn how to do stocks, handle stocks and bonds, and actually start making money from in prison and now taking care of your family.
Yes. So it was a big deal to me to know that I was able to do some things to help my family. If things were a little tight for my mom at the end of the month, I had the ability to send her some money. During all the holidays and birthdays for my nieces and nephews, I was always able to get some gifts and just let them know that even though I can't be there, I'm sending my love in the best way that I can.
Yeah.
So that's made a huge difference for me.
So did you have your light bulb moment? I mean, you said like you knew when you first got to that prison that you wanted to change your life. Was there any slipping back? I mean, did you just kind of hang out for a few months or years feeling bad, or did you just jump into self-development?
No, it's funny you ask that, because nothing's so clear cut. You're gonna fall, and an analogy I like to use: some people, they'll stub their toe and they'll think, oh, I've stubbed my toe, so I might as well break my ankle and then break my leg and fall and not get up. But the really unique thing about being a human, being a person, is you can fall and you can get back up. You can make mistakes and you can say, you know what, I messed up right there. What can I learn from that? And how can I move forward? So through my early years in prison, absolutely. I had some hang-ups. I'm trying to navigate my way through this whole new world that's called prison, with all these rules and all the spoken rules and the unspoken rules, the things that you can do, cannot do, and should not do. So I learned how to navigate that, and I guess I had several like aha moments, I guess you could say. At the point where I started learning stocks, that was one. And then when I got to Marion Correctional Institution, I had pretty much spent all of my time reading and studying on my own and going to the weight pile. And that was how I managed my life: reading, working out, reading, working out. Well, when I got to Marion, I was like, you know what? I need to do something in my life. And it was at that point that I got a job in the law library. And it was a whole new education that I was learning. Essentially, I was going to be responsible for helping other men in prison navigate the court system. And that's a terrifying thought, to have that responsibility. And it was really cool. I met my mentor there, a guy named Ron Baker, who's now my boss, ironically. And he taught me how to litigate. He mentored me and taught me to be a law clerk. And then eventually he went home and I became what was known as the senior law clerk at Marion CI. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And there's a lot of things that you have to do to protect your environment, because people will come in with the wrong idea of how things should be done. And I wanted our law library to be the best, the absolute best in the state. And I'm very proud to say that my last 4 years at Marion CI, we were rated the best law library in the state every year consecutively.
And you left an awesome foundation, because, you know, I'm still volunteering there, and, you know, I'm connected with the guys that are there now. And if you had not laid that good foundation, it could have fallen apart when you left.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it didn't, right? You were able to create something where, you know, somebody else could step in. Remember when we had that conversation, I said, start getting ready for when you leave. You need to, right? Get to line up your people. Who's
and I took that advice, because one of the supervisors there, she said, listen, you're doing the job of like 5 people. So who all is going to do this when you leave? So I went to Style, I went to Scott Bailey, I went to David Yoakum, all these different people who were really integral in the programs and the advancement of everything I did. A lot of people would see my face on stuff, but there were so many people behind me, behind the scenes, doing different things. It was such an amazing experience. It was so awesome.
Well, so we'll flash forward to 2015 when we met. We might have met. I think we did meet in 2015. It was the leadership seminar that Manal, dear Manal, put together.
Yes.
And how you came together with Manal to put the SAGE program together, and tell people what that's about.
So I'm a huge Manal fan. Manal had such an impact on my life. I got tricked into being in the Gavel Club because I'm good at writing and I'm good at organizing and structuring. And they're like, hey, we want you to be on this new board. Oh, what am I going to have to do? Oh, you know, just the things you do. I said, okay. So we have our first board meeting. I meet Manal, and they're like, oh, so y'all give speeches? I said, no, I'm not giving a speech. And anybody who knows Manal, she gives you that look, says, yes, you are. Okay. All right. I'm in. So we started our first Gavel Club, and at the main unit, because you guys had already started one at the work camp. Right. So this was the first at the main unit, and we're meeting every week, and it was such an amazing experience. I'd never experienced anything in prison like that before. The dynamics, the people coming together, the volunteers coming in, just the camaraderie. You know, it was said for several years at Marion CI by volunteers that there's no better place to be on a Saturday night than in prison.
Right.
You know, I was like, man, I'd much rather be somewhere else. But hey, okay, I'm glad you guys are coming to see me. Through getting to know Manal and getting to work with her, I got to work as her assistant and starting the second Gavel Club on the main unit, which is Soul Speakers. And I was kind of her point man that would organize everything, get everything going. And I got to looking at what she does with Fakori Leadership International. And I said, you know what would be really cool? If we held like a men's conference here. So she's like, all right, let's see if we can do it. So we got it approved. We had a 2-day conference. I think there was like 20 different speakers. I mean, it was just so awesome. I got my first chance to do an hour-long presentation at that conference on Tony Robbins' Creating Lasting Change. It was just amazing. You know, we did restorative justice there. So many great things. But the thing that got me the most was, and I don't know if you remember Linward Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Linward Snow, he's been in a long time as well. And he came to me and he said, Richie, I want to tell you something. I participated in every program that DOC's ever had to offer. And nothing has been as dynamic as this. Nothing has made more of an impact on my life than this right here. So one of those aha moments right there, I said, you know what? I think we can turn this into a continuous program. So I got with Manal and I got with the then Assistant Warden of Programs, James Howe, and I said, boss man, I got an idea. He said, we'll put it on paper and we'll review it. And I did, and that's how SAGE came about.
And what does SAGE stand for?
SAGE stands for Such a Great Experience. So people ask me, like, how can you have a great experience here? Well, come to one of our classes and you'll find out.
Yeah.
Because for me, what I wanted a program kind of like the Center for Spiritual Living. I wanted a program where everyone was welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a program where it did not matter what your race, your religion, your beliefs, whether you were good, whether you were bad. I wanted a program that everybody could come to and get the successful tools they need to succeed while they're in and prepare for when they go home. So I have a belief that everybody that enters prison should have a success plan from the inception. And it shouldn't matter if you have a year or a life sentence. You should have a success plan because you're still alive. You're still living. And do I like that I did that much time? No, I don't. Did I enjoy myself? Did I do some beneficial things? Absolutely. I lived. And that's my thing I like to tell people. You're still living. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Just change the thought process in your brain.
You know, Richard, I started with the Gavel Club at the work camp, and I was like, I can do this because I know these guys are getting out, and I'm thinking that I can offer them something they're going to be able to use when they leave. And then the opportunity came to work at the main unit, and I'm thinking, man, some of these guys are never getting out of here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could, be hopeful. Like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to teach them. And they taught me so much. And I realized that I wasn't there to give people skills for when they got out of prison. I was there to give them some tools and ideas and things that they could use right there,
Right then,
in their lives, in that moment, make the best of whatever situation they were in. And that shifted everything.
it's funny because you and I had a conversation in the library about that very same subject you just mentioned.
Mm.
And I remember you saying that, I'm over here at the work camp and I'm doing this, but I come over here, it's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
Completely different thing. But I'll tell you this, and I'll tell all the listeners out there, if you haven't, get Cindy to do an 8 to Great class.
Oh.
That class changed my life.
Mm.
It changed my life because I realized for the first time that I'm not responsible for my family's actions. I'm not responsible for what somebody else says. I'm responsible for me and how I react to it.
Yeah.
So that right there, and you asked me the other day, how did I get through all of that? And how did I get through going back to court and waiting and everything? It was classes like 8 to Great. It was classes like Creating Lasting Change. It was classes like Manal's Networking Like a Pro, Advanced Public Speaking, and all the different skills that I learned from you guys coming in. So, I mean, really, you guys are the heroes in this.
Yeah.
Because you guys came in and you believed in us enough to give us value.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I could see it worked both ways, hon. It was
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So what people might not know here. So you're coasting along. You're putting all these awesome programs together, and in the meantime, your co-defendant was 17 when the crime occurred, right?
Yes.
And so there was something about the length of the sentence, right? There was some change in legislature where young people,
Yes.
You explain it. Go ahead. You explain the legality of it.
And the legality side of it, in 2010, the United States Supreme Court said that it is an Eighth Amendment violation to sentence a juvenile offender to life without parole. And the reason they said that is a juvenile is categorically different than their adult counterpart. So fast forward, all these years, new legislation comes out. They've got all these things happening. And my co-defendant files a motion for resentencing and judicial review. I had not looked up my co-defendant in probably 6-7 years. He was at one prison, I was at another prison, and we were both doing our time. So he files this motion and he goes back and he's resentenced and released. Well, there was a stipulation from the beginning that because he was the shooter in the crime, that he had to have a longer prison sentence than me. So whereas I was sentenced to 38 years in prison, he was sentenced to 38 years, 6 months in prison. The day that I found out that he was released from prison, and as I told you earlier, it was 40 days after he was released, I found out. I prepared the motion. I sent it to my attorney. They filed it. Now, I've been a paralegal specializing in post-conviction and appellate law for 13 years now, and I have probably worked on 500 cases or more. When I filed my motion, the judge made a ruling for me to come back to court within 24 hours. I had never seen that done before.
Mhm.
So here I'm thinking, oh, this is a cakewalk. I'm going to court October 2nd and I'm coming home. And you and everybody else thought the same thing.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
We were at your hearing. I
Yes.
was at your hearing. Layla was at your hearing. Lita, anyway, several of us were there. You had
So
lots
many.
of friends. You had
Yeah.
people that were like in your corner cheering you on. We were thinking Richard's getting out, if not today, by Christmas. And it
Right.
didn't happen.
It
And
did not.
we were blown away. I mean, I saw your attorney hold up this stack of testimonials. There were all of us in the courtroom there for you. He talked about all the amazing things you had done in the time you were in prison. And it was just a travesty to think that you were going to be spending still more time, behind
It,
bars.
it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, because we went to that hearing that day, and I'm expecting the judge to make a ruling right then, and then she reserved ruling, and I was just like, "What's this mean?" So I go back to the county jail, and I'm sitting there, and like 3 days later, they transport me back to prison. I never thought I would see prison again. So when I rolled up to that gate, I was just like so overcome with emotion. And I
Yeah.
go back there, and I'll say this, man, the staff at Marion CI are some of the best staff. They work with us so much to give us what we need, and they were always great with me. And I go back there, and I think it was about 100 days before the judge made her ruling. And we have the little JPay tablets in prison now where we can get emails. So every week I get an email on Friday from my attorney. And it's always the same thing. Well, the judge hasn't made a ruling yet. We're still waiting. And I'll never forget it. It was June 21st. I come back from work. I check my email and it looks, and I'm like, oh, great. Another email from my attorney saying nothing. And I open it and said, great news. The judge just said you're to get immediate release. And it was another moment where everything stopped. And I could not believe it. And a great friend of mine who was just released, Roland Walker, was the very first person I went and told. And, we hugged, and it took a few hours, but I was emergency released that day, 10 years early on my sentence.
Yeah.
So it's
It was 8 months from
yes.
the time of that hearing. And I know I was seeing you because I was going back to teach classes, and every week you
Right.
were there, and I was thinking, this poor guy, like, when are they going to cut him loose? It really wasn't, I just was wondering myself how you kept it together, and you always had a smile on your face, and you always did what you did and took care of business. And there was never that, like, feel sorry for me or anything like that. I just was really so impressed with how you handled that whole situation, that I was like, I'm so glad you're my first guest from MCI, and I imagine I'll have other ones, but I just want to tell you how much I honor you for that, and how you were able to keep yourself together in that
Well,
time.
thank you. And, you know, having the law library, having Sage, here's how I felt. Every time when I was there, that you, Manal, Renee, Lisa, Terry Martin back, anybody came through those doors, I felt like you guys were my guest at my home.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a duty to make sure that as my guest, that you guys were taken care of, that you had everything you need, and that I was a good host.
Yeah.
And whether that's something that is real or not, it gave me a purpose. And I think that when you have a purpose in life and you believe in something greater than you, and something that I learned from Manal a long time ago was, if you're not adding value in somebody else's life, then you're really not living.
Yeah.
And that's just what I've wanted to do. And you know, I've got to give a plug right now to Storytime Dads, because that was really that was really happened when the Gavel Club happened and before Sage happened. So
tell people what that is. Storytime Dads.
Storytime Dads is an amazing program where we got everything donated, the books, the recording equipment, and approval from the administration to record incarcerated fathers reading children books to their kids. And it was such an amazing experience, because I'm looking at guys who are hardened criminals, and they come and they sit in this room, and I got this little nice backdrop painted, and they're reading a book to their kid. And I'm like, listen, just be you. Nobody's going to know about this but me and you. You know, you can trust me. And I got to see these people take the mask off. I got to see these people experience something that they never experienced. They never had anybody read a children's book to them. So I'm watching these guys read these books to their kid. And it was just such an amazing experience right there. It was the first year I did it, I went out to visit. It was around Christmas. And this little girl came up to me and she tugged on my pants. I was like, "What's up, sweetie? Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for making it so my daddy could read to me."
Mm.
That right there made all of the nonsense I had to go through, all the red tape with the administration, all the hassle, that right there made it worth it.
Yeah.
And that made me realize that I want to spend my life helping people.
Yeah. Well, you certainly did. And there you go. The boo-hooing, the boo-hooing. Oh, goodness, Richard. It was such an amazing experience that you created for so many people, and a lasting legacy that's so beautiful. And I'm so proud of you, and I'm hugging you from here.
Thank you.
And let me see if there's anything else, because we're running out of time. We could talk for a long time, but we're gonna be able to, after this, for those who want to stay on with us and have a Zoom conversation, and people who are watching can join in on Zoom. It's in the feed on Facebook, and they'll be able to ask you questions or just give you some news and whatever else they want to say. So where you are today, I just get people kind of caught up with your life. You're out now for just about a year. Your anniversary.
I'm a week away from being 1 year out. Really cool thing. I'm the senior paralegal for a company called Prisoner Connections LLC. The CEO and founder of the company was my mentor in prison. He got out and created this business. So we're still helping men in prison and women in prison with their post-conviction appellate needs. A really cool thing, about 7 months ago, I became the president of an organization called LEA, which stands for Legal Empowerment Advocacy Hub. And we're all about giving the community access and knowledge to the courts and how to navigate the different things that go on. One thing I used to tell people, that there's a misconception that people in prison are only working on their criminal cases. That's not the fact. You have a plethora of things that come up. You have deaths in the family, you have probate, you have civil, you have child support issues, all these different things. So LEA is geared towards helping people in the community know how to access the court. And two amazing partnerships that we're currently involved with is NYU School of Law, the Bernstein Institute.
I'm going to show this. Look at this, folks. I'm so excited to show this, that Richard had the opportunity to speak at NYU School of Law, and here is the request. And that happened when, Richard?
That happened in February. So right before COVID-19 hit, they flew me out to New York to speak on a panel. But the really cool thing is I got to do a workshop with about a dozen law students and let them pick my brain on what it is that I do, because law students, they're just learning theory. They don't have practice. So it's a really cool thing. But the coolest thing that we're doing right now is called the Jailhouse Lawyer Initiative. And we're creating curriculum that law students and lawyers are going into the prison to teach to the inmates how to be a law clerk. So where do I come in on this? I have a lot of knowledge about law, but what my goal in this and what we've worked on is infusing leadership principles within the curriculum of things that I used in Sage. So we're creating this network where things are starting to branch together. And we just joined partnership with FSU doing the same thing, trying to create a law clerk manual for Florida inmates. And it's just an amazing journey going on right now. I'm so grateful. I'm thankful, and I appreciate life every day. And I appreciate you, Cindy, and Manal, and all the other volunteers who dedicated so much time to coming in and caring about all of us. So thank you.
Yes, and I'm so excited for you, Richard, for all of the things on your professional horizon, that you're going to be joining us in Marion County, moving to Ocala, and things in personal life are looking up, and just I'm just so proud of you and so happy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity as well.
Yes, absolutely. I want to share a quote here that goes along with what we're talking about. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I just think I know that is true. I know that's the truth. And Richard is a beautiful example of one who was able to change his thinking and change his heart during those years in prison. And look at who you are today. It's a beautiful thing. And I want to leave people also with an affirmation. And I think you probably could have said this, Richard. You know, my faith is strong, my intentions are clear and powerful. And I try to give folks an intention or an affirmation that they can use throughout the week. You know, that we post these on Facebook, and, you know, for you to put them on your refrigerator, or, you know, just write it down or think about it at night before you go to bed, and just keep your mind straight. Right? Keep your mind on task, keep yourself focused on the good, and it will come, it will manifest. And you're such a great and wonderful example of that.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks again, Richard. I appreciate it. And you are going to join us on Zoom, right?
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Absolutely.
Terrific. All right.
As soon as I can find the link.
All right. Let me see. You know what? Let me see if there's any comments here before we sign off here. Thank you for sharing your story. Are you seeing the comments here on the side?
No, I'm on my phone.
Okay, well, let me tell you. Reverend Ed Tansey says, I'm sure, Richard, you are and have been an inspiration to many. Your story has touched me greatly. You're a gift to the universe. Blessings. Marie Kirkland, also another minister. Thank you for sharing your inspirational story. We've got Legal Empowerment Advocacy here, and there is the Zoom link for people who want to join us. And thank you, Peter. Yes, life is meant to be appreciated. And thanks to both of us for doing this work. And yes, I thank everybody for watching. All right, whew, let me catch my breath again. I made it through without sobbing.
It was hard for me too.
It was.
You know, when you're living it, you're in it. But when you reflect on it, it's a lot. It is a lot to take.
It is mind-blowing. Yes. Yes. All right. Thanks again, Richard. We'll see you back in a bit.
All right. See you then.
All right. Check myself out. Okay. Wow. So let's see what we've got here. I think it is time for us to, before we do our closing prayer, want to invite you to share your gifts with the center. You know, that if what we do resonates for you, if you'd like for us to be able to do more of it, to share, then we appreciate anything that you can donate. Your financial tithes and offerings are greatly, greatly appreciated. And, you know, we have work and things that we need to have done at the center. And so everything helps my ministry. It helps the Center for Spiritual Living to continue to do what it is that we do. And so let me show you how you can give to the Center for Spiritual Living. We've made it super easy for you. You can go to our website and donate via PayPal. You can put a check in the mail, or you can call that number that's scrolling across the bottom, 352-320-5110. That's 352-320-5110. And once you have that number programmed into your phone, all you have to do is send the amount that you want to send us. So whether that's $10 or it's $100, or if you want to send us 500 or more, we take it all, and we greatly appreciate it. So I want to take this moment to give gratitude for that. And here is our affirmation for sharing our gifts. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature and it is your nature to share the gifts of time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so grateful. And I really think that Richard's story and his sharing exemplifies what this is all about, and the fact that Richard's life really took off and took greater meaning and became more rich and fulfilling for him as he gave back. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us. So let's see. All righty. What else is going on here at the Center for Spiritual Living? I don't have our announcements up, but I want to let you know that we will be partnering with Circle Up, Center for Practical Peace Building. Soon, we're thinking about all of these things that are happening around us in our community and in the larger world, with all of these issues and all of this divisiveness and really sad things that are happening in our communities. And we're going to do a couple of movie showings. We will probably be showing Just Mercy in Selma and doing a discussion group after that. I will be leading, along with a team of others, conversation around dehumanization and what that means and how to not do it so that we can make the most of our relationships and start building some bridges. So I'm excited to be bringing that to you soon, and be on the lookout for that on our website. And so let's see if there's anything else. I think that might be about, I think that's about it. So I'm going to bring us then to our closing prayer and ask you all, whoever is interested, to join us on the Zoom feed in a little bit. And I will close this out with this prayer for protection that comes from our Unity family. And this is a prayer that was written by James Dillett Freeman, and it is the prayer for protection. And it goes like this: the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I give thanks for you spending your time with us this afternoon, and hope that you have a fabulous week, and look forward to seeing you all next week, when my guest for next week is Reverend Tom Pittman. We're going to be speaking, and it's Father's Day. I'm looking forward to this conversation with Tom. He is another one of my peers. Tom and I went through ministerial school together, and he has quite an extensive background. He's a man's man, spent a career in the military and as an attorney. He's a man's man and father of 5 daughters. So he's got great stories, and we're going to have an awesome conversation. So I look forward to having you join us next week. And I think that with that, I will leave you, and again, pray that you have a fabulous week. Thanks for joining us, and see you on Zoom.